Hello, everyone, and welcome to another match reaction show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie, and I'm your host for this evening. Mixed emotions with regards to today's result as the game ended 1-1 between Nottingham Forest and Liverpool. During the show, I'll give you a match review plus player ratings for Liverpool. This is also a calling show, guys. So if you'd like to come on and have your say, it's an open platform. The link is pinned in the live chat, so feel free to join as I will bring callers in later on after the player rating. So let's start with the match review and let's discuss the key moments of the game. Now, in terms of the first half, Gakpo and Gravenberch produced early chances for Liverpool as they produced a couple of long shots. But unfortunately, they were wayward efforts that completely missed the target. However, moments later, Gravenberch got himself into a good goal scoring opportunity where Salah squared it to him in the middle of the box, but unfortunately, he failed to score. Different story in the other end as Chris Wood breaks the deadlock for Forest with a left-footed strike into the bottom corner to make it 1-0. Forest then almost made it 2-0 as Murillo hits a long shot with some real power, but unfortunately for him, his shot just misses the post. Diaz has a chance to trouble the keeper with his shot from the edge of the box. Another wayward effort that goes high and wide, but the next moment, I was ready to tear my hair out. Luis Diaz is driving with the ball on the counter attack. He has Gakpo on his right side, but in terms of the positional sense, if you hit it through towards Gakpo, Gakpo is going in through a very easy goal scoring chance, and you can put your house on it. He'll probably bury that opportunity. Instead, Diaz delays the pass, and when he eventually releases the ball, it's blocked by the Forest defender. So for me, a poor decision from Diaz, who should have done a lot better in that situation. In the second half, Salah has a great chance as he's inside the box, hits a snapshot, but unfortunately just misses the target. But things needed to be changed at that moment, and Arne Slot made a couple of substitutions with Simicast and Jota replacing Robertson and Konate, and boy, did they have an instant impact. Their first touches led to the equaliser. Simicast hits a fantastic corner, whips in towards the danger zone. Jota leaps in the air and heads it into the corner to make it 1-1. What a finish from Jota, exactly what we need at the time. And from there onwards, the momentum shifted for Liverpool. Liverpool started posing more of an attacking threat going forward. Jota has another chance where he's inside the box, cuts in with his left foot, applies a shot, saved by Sales. Then he has another chance with his left foot again. This time it was blocked again by his Sales. Then Szoboszlai has a low shot from the edge of the box. Another save from Sales that led to a corner. And from that corner kick, Salah has a fantastic opportunity. He hits his shot, unfortunately high and wide. But at that moment for me, Szoboszlai laid it off to Salah on the edge of the box. Should have done better for me. He should have shot himself in that moment as he had the whole goal to aim at. He said it gave to Salah, who had to hit a shot where it didn't really have any conviction in terms of the finish there. So for me, that's the area I feel like Szoboszlai really needs to improve on. His decision making is ineffective, where he's going for the right. Sorry, he's not going for the right moves. He's not shooting when he'd be shooting, and he's not passing when he should be passing. So for me, he needs to do a lot better. From there onwards, Salah got a taste and was hungry to get on the score sheet. He has a chance where he's through on goal, but unfortunately, his first touch let him down, and Sales managed to claim the ball. Salah has another pop on goal with his chance going the closest at that time. Um, Almost made it 2-1. Salah applies a shot from the edge of the box. For me, it looked like it was curling in towards the top corner, but Sales pulls off a phenomenal save to tip the ball over the bar for a corner kick. And from this corner kick, Salah has a shot from distance, and I thought it's going in. He's hitting it hard and low towards the bottom corner, but Ola Aina produces the important block to deny the Egyptian king. And towards the end, Cody Gakpo creates an opportunity for himself with a low shot, but Sells yet again produces another save to deny the Reds. And that's the end of the game. After calming down in the last hour or so and reflecting on the game, I think a draw was a fair result. Nottingham Forest were fantastic in the first half, but after Liverpool scored the equaliser, the light bulb switched for the Reds, and they could have easily have clinched the win in the end. If it wasn't for Matt Sells producing some incredible saves for his team, we could have walked away with 3 points. Instead, he's actually helped his team gain a point today. Now, looking at the table, we're still top of the table. 6 points clear with a game in hand. We're still in a very strong position. So let's not get too overboard in terms of not being a great result. I think we're looking at Forest as a relegation team rather than Forest that is challenging for top four position. We have to give them their respect. They're not they're in second place for a reason and they deserve to be there on merit. A talking point for me is that we've actually gained a crucial point today. Taking a point from the City ground where many have struggled this season is not so bad, in my opinion. But hey, everyone's got their opinion in terms of the outcome of today. So what we'll do now is we'll move on and do the player rating. So I'll share a graphic and then we can go player by player and discuss the individual performance today. So let's start with Allison. For me, Allison wasn't required to be in action that much today. Now, some fans may argue and say he should have done better for the goal. I wouldn't co-sign that if I'm being brutally honest. It wasn't a unstoppable finish or anything to that nature, but it was a clean, clinical finish into the bottom corner. Hit it with real power, real position. So for me, you've got to favour the attacker in that moment. It's not for the goalkeeper to deny him. If a goalkeeper blocks that, then it's regarded as a sensational save because it was advantage to the striker, not the goalkeeper. So for me, I wouldn't blame him for that goal. That's my opinion on that one. But generally, had an average game. He wasn't involved in a lot of saves. Like Forrest didn't create a lot of chances, so he wasn't called upon that much in terms of his distribution. Yeah, he kept it simple today. Wasn't anything, he wasn't trying to present like Hollywood passes or when he's quick off the line in terms of trying to set up a counter. He didn't really apply that today. I think today it needed to be a more measured type of game where we're playing from the back, slowing the tempo down from the defense rather than just hitting it long across the pitch and hoping for the best. That wasn't our game plan today. So for me, I'll give him an average rating. I can't really give him a very high rating because he didn't make any sort of outstanding saves or anything to that nature. So I'll give him a 7 out of 10. Don't think he had a bad game unless someone has anything to disagree with, but I thought he was pretty much fine today. Trent, for me, had a good game. There were a couple of moments where Hudson-Odoi certainly caused a bit of havoc on that left-hand side, but I wouldn't say, he got cooked or he got burnt for toast or anything like that today. I feel like today he held his ground in certain moments. I think from an attacking point of view, his passing was decent. I wouldn't say it was great today. There was a lot of wayward passes that I feel like maybe he should have done a lot better, and opportunity of having through balls over the defense and not quite executing to his standards. So for me, a decent game, not an outstanding game in terms of Trent's standards. So for me, it's kind of similar range to Alice. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. And Kanate, pretty much the same thing as well. I don't think Kanate did anything where I thought, oh, he looks shaky or he made a mistake or anything to the nature. However, the goal for me was Konate's fault to an extent where the pass towards Salah. Some may argue it was Salah's fault. Some may argue it's Konate's fault. I would go with the latter. I think it was Konate's fault. I think that pass was too short for Mohamed Salah at the time, and he had to do, cover a bit more ground to try and nick it off the player. The player already had an advantage from Salah because he was a couple steps ahead. So for me, it was a poor pass from Konate. But other than that, I thought he was quite solid in the game. Um, wasn't really caught out of position. I was very strong in aerial challenges because he had a tough opponent in Chris Wood today. So for me, I'll give him a 7 out of 10 as well. I don't think he was spectacular or anything like that, but had a decent enough game. I'll probably go alongside with the same notion for Van Dijk. I don't think Van Dijk was rubbled that much. I felt like he did well for us in certain parts because he had to cover ground for the player on his left side because he was in a lot of unfamiliar positions where he's out of position and he's gone a bit too far up and he's leaving gaps for Virgil to handle. So for me, I feel like Virgil van Dijk had the better game today. um, from a centre back position. So for me, he gets a 7.5, um, only because I feel like he had to really work hard for Robertson. And he had to clean up on a number of occasions. So for me, Virgil gets a 7.5. Robertson, poor performance from Robertson. I'm trying to be as polite as possible. I'm not impressed with him whatsoever. Not saying he was at fault for the goal or anything, but there were certainly a lot of moments where he made me feel nervous, whether it's clearances or um, not being tight on his man in terms of marking or positional sense, or even from attacking point of view. I just feel like he was average all the way around, and I just thought he was very poor on the ball. Um, Almost there was that moment where he slipped as well. That could have led to a goal at the time. So for me, a very very poor game. So in terms of his rating, this may be harsh, but I'm going to base on what I saw today. I wasn't impressed. So for me, it's a 3 out of 10. Let's move over to midfield. Now, in terms of Gravenberg, I think Gravenberg had a good game. Started the game a bit slow, in my opinion. Uh, I don't know if he was maybe gave the opposition a bit too much respect, but he just seemed a bit nervous. It wasn't really playing his natural game. Had the ball and like he was tripping over the ball on a couple of occasions. So I don't know what it was, but wasn't playing with his free flowing self, wasn't driving the ball like he normally does. But in the second half, he improved. He even switched over to a centre back position, and I thought he did a decent job. There were a couple of moments where he had to really use his physique and power, and his power, sorry, and barge people out of the way in order to claim the ball. So for me, he had a decent outing today. So for his rating, I'll give him 7.5 out of 10 as well. McAllister for me was a little bit underwhelming today, if I'm being brutally honest. In my match preview, I highlighted McAllister as the key for us to unlocking uh, the door of Nottingham Forest, and it just didn't happen today. I think his passing range was off, very negative in terms of not a lot of forward passes. Slowed the game down on a number of occasions. He'll have the ball, and you're thinking, oh, he's trying to find that through ball where we're going to unlock the team. Ends up doing sideways passes and then loses the ball on a number of occasions as well. So for me, very lackluster on the ball today. Had a couple of shots that were never on. So not overly impressed with Mackay's performance today. I don't think he had a good performance today. So I'm giving him a 6 out of 10. Suppose Liverpool was quite poor today. Um, Yes, he did his thing in terms of pressing and using the energy and all that stuff, but that comes with Szoboszlai whenever he plays. In terms of what he brought to the table, in terms of his output, for me, it was lacking quality. He was very undecisive in a lot of his moments, whether that's him in the final third or maybe if it's in the middle of the box. I don't feel like he made the right decisions today. There's a lot of moments where I feel like, he's got it half a yard. Why don't you take a shot? Just didn't do it. He laid it off to Salah or any players that surround him. and when he has shot, it's not been where I feel like a shot was on. I feel like a better option would have been a pass, if that makes sense. So he hasn't found that balance yet in terms of his final ball or final shot. He's still trying to figure that out. But right now, it's not really coming together. So I thought he was quite poor today. He did improve in the second half slightly, but overall, a shadow of himself, if I'm being brutally honest. So for his rating, I'm going to give him a 4.5, which might sound very low, but I wasn't hugely impressed today. Another player that I wasn't impressed today was Mohamed Salah. I was very disappointed with his performance from the minute on. I wouldn't say until the final minute, and I'll explain why. But in terms of the first half and probably parts of the second half, I thought he was really poor. Didn't really contribute from an attacking point of view. I think the creativity came from the left side, and that was through Cody Gakpo. Salah didn't really provide any ammunition there. And for me, that was very disappointing today, was the fact that he made Nico Williams look like a great defender. Now, I'm not trying to sound bitter because he's a former Red, but Nico Williams is not that great, in my opinion. So I feel like he gave him too much respect or too much time on the ball, or just made it look a bit easy. Because for me, Salah should have been dominating Nico Williams. Salah's been up against fullbacks that are much better than Nico Williams and made him look like Sunday League footballers. Today, he made Nico Williams look like a prime. I don't. I'm not even gonna do comparisons because that's not right. But he looked like a very good defender today, and for me, that wasn't right. So I was disappointed that you know he didn't cook him today. That's what I'm very disappointed about in terms of Mohamed Salah. The only positive element that I can take from Salah's game was the fact that despite having a poor game overall, when we got that equalizer, that's when he comes to life. That's when he starts sniffing blood. Like I'm gonna get that winner. Like that's when he's upping the levels and he's trying to be the match winner. And he created a lot of shots. And if it wasn't for Sales, I think Salah would have gone on the score sheet today. So for me, a poor performance, but in typical Salah form or fashion, I should say, he could have been the match winner today because of the number of chances that he created in the last 10, 15 minutes. So, in terms of his rating, I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10. I don't think it was great, but having said that, he could have easily have been a match winner, and then obviously that would have boosted his rating altogether. But for me, a 4 is probably justified in terms of what I saw today. And Gakpo for me was far more positive, far more involved on that left hand side. Produced some decent quality. I remember one ball where it's quality delivery, but it just no one got on the end of it. But he was persistent throughout the game. Whether it's him, making an amazing run and cutting inside to take a shot, he was trying to make things happen. Salah for me wasn't getting involved as much. Gakpo for me was trying his best. Almost scored a goal towards the end of the game. So for me, I think that was another solid performance from Gakpo. So I'll give him a 7 out of 10. Luis Diaz for me was very poor today in every shape or form. When he was on the ball, I feel like he was very wasteful in possession. Hold up play was non-existent. Decision making was poor. I mentioned earlier on about the counter attack in the first half. Should have laid it up to Gakpo a long time ago, but he just didn't do it. And when he did, it was too late. He might have been in an offside position. That's how long Gakpo was waiting at the time. I just don't feel like today's what was his true performance today, a true, you know, vision in terms of how he played. I just didn't see it today. Um, and it's also for me, honestly, we still don't quite know what type of striker he wants to lead Liverpool in the future. But for me, it has to be a number 9. It can't be this whole false 9 thing because when you're playing a 4-2-3-1 formation, you've got to let that number 10 do its thing. And when you've got a false 9 dropping deep, it gets a bit congested, and all that number 10 ends up shifting more to the right or more to the left. Let the guy be the central showcase player. Like let him do his thing. Let him play between the lines. Let him go through the lines and try and score the goals or come up with these final passes and all that sort of stuff. For me, let the number 10 do what a number 10 should do, and that is try to make a difference to this team. So playing a false nine for me just doesn't allow that to happen. Luis Diaz, look, for me, is great to know that he can play that number 9 role. But for me, that's not his long-term position. And today and in previous games, I've seen lapses in his game. I'm thinking it's not for him. I'd rather see him play out wide. But right now, Gakpo's in such great goal-scoring form, you can't even drop him. So currently, in terms of our squad, Diaz is probably one of the first names. But the way Jota performed, he's going to be knocking on the door. So expect more rotation between the two players there. But Diaz, I wasn't impressed at all. I thought he was one of our worst players on the pitch. Sounds harsh, but I'm just trying to be as honest as I can. In terms of his rating, I'm going for a 3 out of 10. I wasn't impressed with his game today at all. Um, and I feel like because we played the false nine, it suited Nottingham Forest because they had two very strong and physical defenders in Milankovic and Murillo as well. But we made it easy for them because they didn't really have a physical battle. They didn't really have someone to trouble them in that magnitude. They had a false nine that dropped in alongside the double pivot. That's how deep he was playing at times. So for me, yeah, not happy with his performance. So it's a 3 out of 10 for me. So that is my ratings for the starting 11. Drop a comment, let me know what you guys think. What I'll do now is I will add the substitutes. Not there wasn't that many, there's only 3 today, and then we'll get their ratings up as well. So Robertson was substituted and Simicast replaced him. And then you have Jota on for Konate, which Konate looked a bit bemused when that happened, but ended up paying off. And then you have Jones for Diaz. So let's bring him on. So let's put the players in the club. So Gamba ended up playing centre back. Jones ended up playing here. Jota led the line. So let's talk about Diogo Jota. Literally came on the pitch with Simicast and his first touch scored the goal. Now, obviously, great substitution into the Arnold slot, and obviously, a bit of luck plays in hand there, but instant impact from Diogo Jota. But even from there onwards, like he was so close to scoring another goal, maybe even 3 goals. He could have got a hat trick today. He had plenty of chances to extend the score sheet there, but Sales fair play to him, produced some great saves. But I was very positive in terms of how Jota performed, and for me, it looks like he's getting back to his normal self, back to his full fitness now. So hopefully he's able to start more games. I wouldn't start him every game because you have to be careful in terms of how you manage him. I don't want him to get injured again. But I was very impressed in terms of how he performed. So for his rating today, I'm going to give him an 8.5 out of 10. And the person that provided the assist was Simicast. I thought Simicast looked really good when he came on. Obviously, first impact was that corner kick that led to the goal. But even after that, just felt like a sense of calmness when he was on the ball on that left hand side. Tried to form a good partnership on the left hand side with Gakpo. Attacked when required. Provided a better balance on that left hand side defensively and from an attacking point. So I thought he had a good game today. So for me, it's an 8 out of 10, and I feel like Simicast should be the first left back. First, many want to shoot in terms of that left back position. For me, that is his position now. So if he has, some terrible games, then you bring in Robertson. But from now on, for me, Simicast number 1. So let's see if Arnold agrees with me on that one. And the final sub was Jones. I was quite surprised that Jones was brought on at the time. I did highlight him as a potential player to come on, but then I highlighted about 5 players altogether. So he was the least likely candidate I thought would have been brought onto this game. And I don't feel like he was required. And if he was, I thought it would have been a full like substitution for Sobozlai, but that wasn't the case. He came on for Diaz, and then we, changed our shape a little bit. I would have personally preferred if Harvey Elliott come on because bringing on Simicast and Jota was quite an attack-minded substitution from Armstrong, where dropping Gravenberg into defence so we can have another ball-playing midfielder in midfield was quite a positive outlook. So I thought maybe we would have gone one step further and brought in Harvey Elliott in place of Szoboszlai, who for me wasn't really impactful in that game, and maybe give him a chance where he's that type of player who's quite nippy on the ball, has great creativity, can thread the final pass if required. So I thought maybe he would have been the guy to open up Nottingham Forest's defense, but he didn't get any game time at all, which was a shame. Or if Arsenal had different ideas and wanted to play a bit more defensively, Endo could have been easier brought on, where you've got Matthias and Endo, so you've got a bit more protection in that back line. Or put Endo in the centre back position and then still have Gravenberch in that double pivot alongside McAllister. So different alterations could have been done there. So I was surprised that Jones came on. I think he did okay. I feel like he was a bit passive in terms of the way he played, didn't really get heavily involved. And when he was in the final third, I feel like he slowed the game a little bit. There were moments where we needed to do a quick passing and he just held the ball and was trying to find the final pass, but I just felt like he just killed the momentum and then nothing really came out of it. So not the impact that I wanted from a substitute, uh, but that doesn't mean he was completely poor. So for me, he gets a 5 out of 10. So that's my rating, and as you can see, Diogo Jota has the highest score today, so he is my man of the match despite not starting. Can I even make him man of the match? There he is. I think he raised his name. So there you go. Diogo Jota is my man of the match there. So drop a comment, let me know who you thought was your man of the match. Not that there were any stellar performances today, in my opinion, but that is the end of my player rating. That's also the end of the show. So what I'll do now, I'll go through some of the comments and then we can conclude the show. So Solo P1 says big up yourself, Solo. Uh, Double D says Diaz 2. Yeah, I'm not mad at that scoreline, Double D. And big up yourself as always. Steve says, let's go, champ. Let's go, Steve. Indeed, big up yourself. Double D saying Simicast 8. Yeah, that's exactly the scoring I gave as well. Steve says Simicast Jota did more in 24 minutes than Robert Diaz did in 66. That's facts. Double D's gone for 7 for Jones, which is fair. He's also said some good runs into the box, gave them something to think about. But yeah, Harvey should come on. I concur. Yeah, for me, it was I wanted a player that was a bit more on the front foot. I like Jones in the double pivot role rather than a bit more further up. But I feel like if Harvey had come on, then he could have had more of an impact, being a player that is very quick in that sort of opening yards, and then could have like spread passes around. I think his creativity was needed at the time as well. So for me, had he come on, it would have had a different outlook altogether. But Jones wasn't bad. That's why I didn't give him a very low score. I gave him an average score of 5. Um, but I don't think he was as impactful as I would have liked for someone to have come into our midfield. But that's just my opinion there. Steve says you need a goal and bring on Jones. Joke. Elliot or Chiesa should have come on if you want to win. Yeah, there were definitely shouts for Chiesa. Big up Ravi. He was mentioning that in my watch along as well. But he wanted Chiesa to come on in place of Salah. For me, I wanted Salah to remain on the pitch because Salah is more capable of, scoring those clutch moments, especially when we got the equaliser. I feel like that's when Salah reacts and wants to be the match winner. He's even more hungry than normal. So for me, Salah had to stay. But could Chiesa have come on? Most definitely. He could have come on and played that number 10 role if required. But for me, it would have been Harvey. I thought seemed to be the more natural fit. Jones would have been my natural choice there, but Arnold Slot probably had other ideas in terms of why he introduced him to the game. Ozzie come back, big up yourself. It's a frustrating first half, but turned it around. We certainly did. I think Forest was sensational in the first half, but once we got that equaliser, yeah, we flipped the script completely. Ozzie come back says should have won if not for their keeper. Their keeper was sensational today, so you're completely right there. Produced a hell of a lot of saves, especially in the last 10-15 minutes, and yeah, and managed to get his team a point and a valuable point, if I'm being honest with you. Ozan Kabak says, I think Arsenal will drop points tomorrow as well. Who do they have? Let me have a look. So Arsenal have Tottenham. What? North London Derby. I'm definitely going to be tuned in for that one. Um, yeah, you know what? I know it's at the Emirates and they don't have the best of records there, but Tottenham are just one of those teams where when you least expect them to get something, they just pull something out of the bag, and that could be the case. So, yeah, definitely will be eyes on this game, that's for sure. Steve says Salah hits a bad patch So then, yeah, I would bench him a few games to freshen himself up and get his mojo back. I wouldn't substitute him for a few games in that manner. However, I would reduce his minutes, if that makes sense. So I'd have him starting a lot of the games, but then just play him half an hour, or sorry, 60 minutes, and then give someone else half an hour, like a Chiesa, for example. And then, that way you're still getting the best out of Salah, but then you're giving enough time for Chiesa to gain match fitness and have an impact on the game. So I don't know in terms of the whole January thing. I think most of the time he's not even here in January. He's normally in Africa. So I don't think that's fair assessment because most of the time we hardly see him in the Premier League at that time period. But he's one of those players where he doesn't need to be heavily involved in the build up. He's there to either be a creator or goal scorer now. So I think it was poor today. Don't get me wrong, very very unimpressed with his performance today. But he could have easily been the match winner if it wasn't for sales. So got to put that into perspective as well. Other Kovac says City and Chelsea dropped points today as well, which always helps. It certainly does. Steve says Gravenberch on a number three choice. Centre back now. Wow. We're in trouble. I think that was more of a tactical switch rather than it being, oh, he's my third centre back choice. I don't think he's in that kind of thinking there. Uh, it was just because I think maybe Gravenberch would have suited because he would have been able to handle Chris Wood's physicality and aerial challenges as well. So that's probably why he kept him on and played him in that defensive role. And obviously, we have done that in a prior game this season. So he has played that role once or twice, to be fair. Steve says Kehler should have come on and played false number nine. Yeah, possibly. Uh, I just don't think today was a game for Chiesa. That's just my, and I've been vouching for Chiesa for months, but I just don't think today was the game for him. Obviously, he played one half against Axel Stanley. For me, I'd save him for the Brentford game. We've got a game in 2 3 days, so that should be the focus. I don't think this was the game for him. It was far too intense, and it just wouldn't have suited his skill set currently, where he's lacking match fitness. For me, he hasn't adapted to English football, full stop. So if he came into this game, he would have struggled with the physicality because Forest are a very strong and physical team. So for me, it would have been the wrong match. But that's just my opinion there. Solo says, I worry about our attack. Diaz is not consistent. I called last season and Salah drop off is on its way. I don't agree with this whole Salah drop off thing. I think maybe because he's not scored in the last 2 or 3 games, it doesn't mean that's a drop off now. Like I mentioned, he's hardly playing for us in January because he's normally in Africa playing for Egypt. So we can't really base those opinions because he's never around in that period of time. But look, for me, I wouldn't want to highlight and suggest that a player is going to drop off. For me, that's quite a negative approach. So for me, um, Salah's players, he doesn't need to play great to be involved or for us to talk about him afterwards. If he had scored a goal today towards the end, we'd have a completely different outlook on Salah. If it wasn't for Sales, who for me has been the best keeper in the league this season, he could have got 2 or 3 goals today. So yeah, for me, I don't agree about Salah. The Diaz one, yep, I agree. He's not been very consistent in the false nine role. I feel like he's shown a bit of lapses in his game in terms of pretty much doing things that he does on the wing, where he carries the ball a bit too much, in my opinion, where he should be releasing the ball earlier or playing through balls or finding the right pass, or maybe there's a chance for him to create half a yard to shoot. He's holding the ball a bit longer. He's roaming around in different parts of the pitch. I don't feel like it's suiting the dynamics of the team. So I'll be interested to see what happens with Liverpool in the future in terms of which profile of striker we go for. Because for me, it's not Diaz. Diaz is a left winger in my eyes, but it's good to know he can play like false nine role or number nine role, however you perceive it, which is an added bonus that he can play multiple positions. But for me, he hasn't been consistent. I'm just you know I'm happy that Jota's come in and looked like he's back to his old self. I expect him to start the next few games. So let's see what happens in the upcoming fixtures that we have. Steve said Becker should say was shot. He looks unfit. Sharpness ain't there. Get Killer back in goal. The outfield players are more focused and defend Killer better. Becker in goal. Our players lazy. I don't agree with that. If I'm being honest with you, for me, Alisson Becker is world class. So I'm not gonna buy that. He looks unfit or the sharpness ain't there. For me, nothing suggested that he was at fault for anything. The first goal, I don't think you can blame him for that. Me personally, like, look, I'm not trying to say I was a world beater, but I used to play football back in the day, and I was a striker. In those moments, I'm burying my goal any day of the week. I'm not even left footed, but in that moment, I'm scoring that left footed goal. So you have to always favor the attacker in those positions. And he was clean through on goal. And the way he executed that shot, it was a crisp finish. So you couldn't really stop that, in my opinion. So yes, he was too close to his near post, but in that moment, you're trying to block it so he doesn't embarrass you by hitting it through that side of the pitch. For him to go across goal was the routine finish that you expect, and any striker playing at that level should be finishing that goal. So I wouldn't blame him for that first goal. That's my opinion. And I know a lot of fans are saying that Kelleher should be back in the lineup. For me, I don't agree with that as well. Alisson Becker, for me, the world class keeper still is in my eyes. So I don't completely agree with that one. I think it's a bit harsh, if I'm being honest. Um, Steve Cincinnati was taken off due to being unfit and carrying injury. Oh, if he's carrying injury, that's a big concern for me. Um, in terms of him looking unfit, yeah, we probably pushed him a bit too soon, uh, unfortunately. But we're in a part of the season where we need everyone available, and he'll get there. I feel like he'll take a few games to find his sort of full rhythm once again. Then yeah, he'll be destructive as always. So hopefully, we'll see the true version of Konate in the coming weeks. Um, Solo saying it's not negative, it's what I see, bro. So that's in reference to Salah's drop off. That's your opinion. I don't see January being the period that he drops off because he's hardly here. But that's your opinion. That's my opinion. Um, Season Salah always has a drop off between end of Jan till March, but he's hardly here. So show me some stats to suggest that if he's in Africa, then how's he having a drop off in January? That doesn't make sense to me. So he's in Africa most times of the year, so I don't really agree with that. Solo agrees with Steve. I disagree with both of you, but that's just how I feel. Steve says Chiesa, Elliot, Jota, Dan's front four next season. No, I wouldn't go with that. That makes no sense to me. Why would it be Dan's? So you'd rather have Dan's as our main striker going forward? Enough for me. So I'm assuming Jota's on the left, Chiesa on the right, Elliot as a number 10, and Dan's through the middle. Oh, for your next game, I thought you meant next season. I was thinking, what is going on here? Uh, it's a shout. For some reason, I don't see him starting Elliot. I don't know why. I don't think Armstrong favors Harvey Elliott anymore, which confuses me slightly because he was showing a glimpse of his true qualities in preseason. I know it's preseason, so opposition is not quite the same, but he was given that freedom to play that number 10 role. I feel like he looks really good in it. So I was hoping to see Harvey play that number 10 role a lot more. The injury, of course, came at a wrong time. I feel like he was showing a bit of form at that stage. I'm not quite so sure on that front line, but obviously we'll discuss that uh, in due course. Um, Abdul says hi, Ozzie, guest and chat. Assalamu alaikum. How you all doing? Watch some to you, Abdul, as always. I'm doing good. I hope you are well. Says like, comment, share, subscribe. I want to win against United and Forest. We need to win every game until end of season. You'll never walk along. Many thanks. Be on yourself, Abdul. Uh, Steve said Becker back into the team. We are letting in goals. Kelleher not letting in much goals before. Okay, if that's what you feel, I still can't get that Newcastle thing out of my mind. So if you feel like he's highly rated, then that's up to you. For me, I don't think Kelleher is the level that everyone assumes, but that's just my opinion. As I said, require Isak and Edison by January 2025 to bolster and revitalize all areas of the pitch, enabling us to contend for and secure both the EPL and UCL trophies. We'll come with Liverpool, win every game. Isak would be the dream signing. I know there's rumors circling with Nunes potentially being sold to Al Hilal in terms of a. Well, yesterday we rejected a 70 million bid, which for me just seems crazy. But apparently, Michael Edwards is involved in the negotiations, and they're suggesting that maybe they'll be willing to up the bid to 80, 85 million. So if that's the case, then yeah, I'm ready to bite their hand off and take that offer because for me, 85 million for Nunes, where we've not made a loss, is a win-win situation. But can we invest that into a striker this month? For me, that's the key. No point of selling Nunes and then not strengthening after that. So let's see. We're literally 15th of January now, halfway through the month. I think we'll know how real or genuine this offer is from Al Hilal in the next few days and see where the movement is from Liverpool. But we'll see. I think Isak is the one that a lot of us would want. That's my first choice. I don't see there being a lot of strikers that appeal to a lot of the top teams now. I don't think there's any elite strikers in my eyes that are available. So Isak for me is the one that we should really go for. And I feel like he'll suit our system to the T. He's not just a typical number nine. He can drop deep. He can attack the channels. He's a lethal finisher, hardworking, has something about him as well. So for me, Isak is the guy. But it feels like a dream signing, which is crazy because it shouldn't be. But unfortunately, that is the reality. Abdul says, Nottingham Forest got 4 points against Liverpool. This is unacceptable. It is, but you're looking at Nottingham Forest as the club because we're used to seeing them in the relegation zone. This season, they've arguably been one of the best teams in the league. So you've got to kind of put that analysis of it being Nottingham Forest. Just look at the team. That team deserves to be where they are, in my opinion. Yes, it hurts because we've not been able to gain maximum points against them, but they're second in the league for a reason. So I understand what you're saying in terms of it's not acceptable for Liverpool to be dropping points to a Nottingham Forest team, but they're having a once in a lifetime type of season where everything is working and everything's clicking for them. So we can't disregard that completely. But I get what you're saying there. Steve says Arnold told Elliot can leave this month. He's not in his plans. Can see him. Newcastle bidding for Kwanzaa again. In terms of Elliot, that's a shame. If I'm being brutally honest, I know he was linked with a move to Brighton and Dortmund last week. If that's the case, that's disappointing to hear. If I'm being honest, but in regards to Kwanzaa, I've not heard anything regarding Newcastle showing interest again. But that could definitely be something that happens in the summer. I expect Kwanzaa to go out on loan. I wouldn't say sell him. I think a loan move would make a lot of sense for his development and to a Premier League team as well. So if Newcastle wanted him on loan with an option to buy possibly, then that could be something on the cards. Um, but yeah, I think he's definitely Premier League level. So let's see what happens to Kwanzaa and his future at the club and also, outside the club, I guess. Aldo says next 5 games: Brentford, Lille, Ipswich, PSV, Bournemouth, all winnable games there. But we've got to make sure we're on top of our game. Steve says only Mickey Mouse FC have bid 70 million for Nunes. Listen, you can call them whatever name you want. If they give us 70 million, I'm all for it. I need that 70 million in the bank for us to sign a player like Isak. So look, call them whatever. If they're ready to bid that 80 million pounds, hey, I'll drive him to the airport. So yeah, it's got to be done. I would say, what do you think about Stefanos Zimas? Is he any good? I'll be brutally honest with you, Abdul. I'm not aware of him too much. Of course, I've seen the reports linking us to the young Greek striker. That I think we've opened talks with him or potential summer move for around 20 million pounds. I'm not too familiar with him, so it's someone that I'm probably gonna have to check up on a little bit. Um, but in terms of the profile, 19 years old. And as a striker, we've already got a 19-year-old in our ranks called Jaden Dan. So, do we need someone like that in the ranks for me? I don't think so. But if he's supposed to be the next big thing, then I have to assess it from there on. That's why I can't really say if he's the right player for us or if he's any good. I haven't seen much of him, so and then I'm definitely going to look out for try and catch some games if I can. He doesn't. He plays in the Bundesliga too, so it'll be hard to find televised games. But I'm going to try my best, see what he's about and see, if he's any good for us. But we'll see. Steve says Forest only lost 2 times at home this season. Draw today. Good point for us after shitting the bed first 45 minutes. I agree, Steve. I think that's what we have to look at. We have to look at this team. How have they been this season? Like, what are the levels that they're showing? They've been sensational this year. Like I said, only lost twice at home. We drew today. Look, still a good point. I'm not gonna say it's a point game because I feel like that will hurt me to say that because I feel like we could actually end up clinching the win in the end. But it is a point that for me will definitely help going forward. You know, if we'd lost the game, then we'd never hear the end of it from Arnold Slot. He would have gone on about it until next year. So I'm glad that we got something from the game. It's just a shame that we just couldn't get that match winner. But you got to give credit to the keeper. He was fantastic today. Abdul says Arsenal is reportedly considering the acquisition of Zubimendi. Who are Liverpool going to buy in January 2025? We need EPL and UCL. I don't know. If I'm being honest, in January, I very much doubt that we will be signing anyone. If somehow this Nunes deal goes through, then you are expecting a replacement right away. But I just don't see that happening. I really don't. In terms of the Zubimendi deal, I saw that earlier on today that they are in negotiations. It's a release clause. They're not trying to negotiate a release clause like what we did, but they're trying to get that deal done for the summer. And I think Thomas Partey is expected to leave Arsenal. So let's see. He's rejected him in the past, so I don't think it will happen personally. I think he will remain in Spain, but you never know. We'll see. He has rejected him in the past, and his reluctancy of leaving his home city and moving abroad it doesn't appeal to him. I guess that's what it comes across. So I don't see there being any truth to the rumor. But having said that, he seems quite fed up at his current club in terms of Real Sociedad. So it could be where he might want to move away. But I don't know. If I was to make a prediction, I'd say I don't see it happening. But only time will tell. Steve says, Zimas is Simicast's cousin. You never know. Abdul says, Al Hilal for saying we should have taken it. Reinvest it into a squad in Isak, 130 million. He will come to us. We need FSG ambition. I'm just going up based off in terms of what you do in business, where if someone's giving you an opening offer that's quite high, that means they're willing to pay more. So that's probably why Michael Edwards is now involved in the negotiations because we all know that it shouldn't be him. He's the CEO of football, so he should be looking at finding another club for FSG rather than it being where he's involved in this day-to-day negotiation. But because of the magnitude of the deal, apparently he's got involved now. So Richard Hughes on holiday, so Marco's just like, let me get involved. So maybe they're willing to spend more. Maybe they're willing to give us 85 million. That's what is the reported fee right now. And look, if they can make it happen, Michael Edwards strikes again in terms of getting the revenue required for us to reinvest into the squad. But if he's being sold, it needs to be reinvested this month. Now, I rate Jalen Dance. I do like him as a player, but I feel like it might be too much pressure for us to rely on him as a Nunes temporary replacement until we find someone in the summer. But if that was the case, I'll be honest with you, and it's going to sound very harsh. I'd rather have Dance than Darwin Nunes because for me, that ship has sailed. I just don't see him being that finisher. I'd rather have Dance be sixth choice attacker than have Darwin Nunes. But that's my opinion. I know a lot of people are not going to like that, but I'll just say how it is sometimes. Steve says Wolves, Fuller, West Ham ready to bid for Endo. I wouldn't sell Endo. I think he's a very important member of our squad. If he's to leave, as I mentioned about the Nunes deal, we need to find a ready-made replacement. It can't be where we just ship players out for the sake of it. So for me, they can show that interest, but they can register interest again, but not now, for later on, and that will be in the summer. Abdul Rahim says, "Look, Bade, is he any good?" I actually quite like him. I remember us being linked to him about 2, 3 years ago, and he was at Lens. So that was a French club that he played for. Briefly went over to Forest, ironically, the team we played today, on a loan deal. It didn't work out. So then that's when he's gone over to Sevilla. I think he's actually a good player. Um, does he improve our defensive department? No, I don't see him being a starter or anything to that magnitude. He'd probably be a replacement for Kwanzaa, if that was the case. Um, so I wouldn't say he's an upgrade on anyone, in my opinion. But individually, he's a good defender. So um, would I be up for that signing? It just depends on the context. Is he here to replace a Kwanzaa? Like Steve mentioned, there's interest from Newcastle. Is he going there, and we need to fill the gap? Then that would make sense. Um, when this Stuber broke a few weeks ago, it was regarded as that he is looked at Van Dijk's replacement. For me, no, he's not that level. And to be fair, there aren't many players that are Van Dijk's level. So for me, no, that would have been the right profile. But good player. Whether he's Liverpool quality will depend on terms of who is replacing in the squad. Semenyo, is he any good? Semenyo is a good player. He scored a phenomenal goal today. If you haven't seen it, for Bournemouth against Chelsea, left foot strike, smashed it into the top corner. Good player. I just don't know if we need him, if I'm being brutally honest. Now, if we didn't have a Chiesa in our team, then I feel like he'd be a good player for our squad to cover the left wing and the right wing position. Generally plays on the right hand side. So he would be a good cover for Mohamed Salah and the other players as a sixth choice attacker. But right now, if we were to just sign him, where would he fit? He wouldn't get much game time. So good player. I just don't know. I don't believe we need him right now. But if players were to depart, then he could be an option. But at the same time, I don't know if he's Liverpool quality as well. My sort of criteria would be a lot higher. I think he's a good player, but I just don't know if he's Liverpool quality. So that's just my opinion. Madison, we got Madison. He says the amount of headers Jota scores for his stature is incredible. Yeah, it was up against Murillo and Milankovic as well, and some two powerful defenders right there. And then yeah, he leaped over Murillo. I know the ball went past Murillo, but nevertheless, he still had to remain focused and nod it down into the corner. So yeah, fantastic ability there from Jota. Very underrated in terms of his heading. I was asking, is Chiesa going to stay or go? I think he will stay in this month. Um, I think his situation will be assessed in the summer, depending on how much game time he's had or how much impact he's had. If there's been zero impact and maybe the club is like, maybe the player's like, you know what, I've joined for a year, it didn't work out, I'm happy to part ways, then that could be something on the cards. Right now, I think it's too soon for us to part ways. It would be a shame personally for me to see him leave. We've not really played, he's not really played that much for us. Obviously, scored the other day. So for me, I'd want him to get a bit of an opportunity, get some game time, and then see what he's able to produce on the pitch. I feel like he could have some importance to our campaign, where he can score some crucial goals here and there. I'm not saying he's a starter or anything to that nature, but I definitely feel like he will give us that quality that we need off the bench. So no, I'm not ready to part ways with Chiesa. Um, I think he should stay. She said any players FC sell this month deals will conclude on EFG and why FSG will make a statement. It don't give them enough time to. Yeah, that is an FSG move that they leave it late. But I'm just hoping that if we do get that kind of money in, that we replace Darwin Nunes straight away, if that's the example. But yeah, I don't know. Steve said that Abdul lots of interest for me to take kid on loan for 3 million. Yeah, I don't need that 3 million. I don't think we need that million. What's that 3 million going to do for us right now? So no, keep him on board because he could, play a part in terms of our title race or even in the Champions League. Because I feel like he's more suited for the Champions League games more, in my opinion. So keep him on board until the end of the season. Abdul believes Chiesa should be sold. That's Abdul's opinion there. Sees that if there is only one signing cheap rock FC are going to make this month, then it needs to be a centre back. Yeah, a lot of people say centre back. For me, it's still midfield. I still feel like we need another centre midfielder. Um, but yeah. And then Abdul says we need left back, right back, centre back, DM, and number 9. I wouldn't agree with the right back. I don't think we need the right back. Trent's situation hasn't been confirmed or clarified. Um, so until that doesn't happen, I don't think a right back needs to be added to the squad. Left back, yes, it needs to be addressed because we've got a player who's underperforming severely. But until he doesn't depart, we're not going to sign a left back. Centre back, same situation. I know Gomez is out, but he should be returning in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So when he returns, we've got all four centre backs available. So we don't really need a fifth one. We've got Endo that can play as that fifth choice centre back if required. Number nine, unless Darwin Núñez doesn't depart, we're not signing anyone. So for me, the only player that can be added is a DM because we haven't got the DM that we wanted last summer. So that is still a gap in the squad that wasn't filled. So for me, that would be the only addition that I can see logically happening, but it's not going to happen logically because FSG. It's just not on the cards. They'd rather wait until how the season pans out and then take it from there next summer. So for me, yeah, I see what you're saying in terms of the areas, but we have to make space for players to come in before we start adding players to the squad, and that's definitely not going to get addressed in this window. Abdul says Darwin isn't good enough. I agree, Abdul. I've been saying it for quite a while now. I've been saying it for about over a year now. Don't think it's good enough at all. Um, Still to Abdul, if you're a well-run club on the pitch, this happens. I last summer getting we win the tie. Yeah, if we had gotten a left back, centre back, and then get a number six this window, I think we should have got a centre back and a centre mid last summer. The left back one would definitely have been on the cards, but I don't think it would have been priority. But yeah, now looking at it, yeah, you'd expect a left back to definitely be addressed in the summer, most definitely. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Steve said we only have one and a half quality centre backs ready and available now. Uh, well, if you've disregarded Kwanzaa, I feel that's a bit harsh. I know he's not been in his best form, but still a player that can do a job. Endo can fill in there as well. Konate, yeah, I'm assuming that's your half there, and then Van Dijk. But I still feel like we've got enough players to gas through the situation right now. Abdul says the FSG will implement a tightly controlled strategy and structure FSG out. Yeah, I call that to be fair. Steve said that Ozzie been brainwashed by FSG statements next summer. I'm only saying next summer because that is generally the time where all of their homework, whether it comes from data metrics, all that jazz, is put into reality where they start recruiting certain players and stuff. But right now, Steve, you know my views about Richard Hughes. I don't know what kind of players will be signing. I don't even know how many will be signing because right now, for me, he just seems like a guy that's written up an amazing CV, submitted it, somehow got the job, and he can't do the job now. That's what it feels like having Richard Hughes at the club. So for me, yeah, some fans will be like, no, that's a bit harsh. He did a good job at Bournemouth. This is Liverpool Football Club. We're a different kettle of fish. Expectations are higher where we stand. I don't know. For me, I haven't seen nothing to suggest that he's going to get, players for us. And you mentioned, PR machines and propaganda, all that sort of stuff. That's probably why we had the Kvaratskhelia rumors the other day, just to appease fans. It appeased me that evening. I did a dedicated show for for that rumor, but I think deep down we knew that wasn't going to happen, and it's the reality. So we'll see. It's such a difficult one to try and stay positive, but I'm trying to stay positive only on the basis that normally we do try and sign players in the summer. Um, Hopefully some players depart. So the likes of the Darwin Nunes, the likes of the Robertsons, and players that I feel like should be surplus to requirements actually leave the club. So then we have space to try and add and replace. So let's see. I haven't been brainwashed. Don't get me wrong. It's I still know what the way of businesses operate at the club. Um, but I try to cover all angles just to see their perspective and ours. And I can see why we're not going to sign anyone in January unless it's an opportunistic signing. That is their favorite buzzword. So yeah, that's something I've taken from their machine, I guess. Abdul said we need effective and efficient owners that want to win the EPL. Yeah, they unfortunately that I don't want to sound like I'm still being a stereotype here, but American owners, i- the way they run for sports clubs is not the way it's done in Europe. And when I say that is because the heavy focus is mainly on getting sponsorship deals, generating as much revenue as possible through merchandise, marketing, advertising, all that stuff. That's what increases the profile of that club. And then you start looking at the performance related on the in terms of recruiting players and all that sort of stuff. It's completely different way of working, different philosophies, different way sports is run from Europe and America. FSG for their focus is business. It is what it is. So obviously, if Liverpool have done well, then they've generated more money, but that doesn't mean that whatever winnings that we received, that they will go on and give it all to Liverpool to reinvest into squad. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, unfortunately that's how it goes. T says to Abdul, we only have investors in control of our club. FC have never acted like owners. Yeah, that's a fair. We have a lot of investors. That is very true. Abdul said Richard Hughes isn't good enough. No, he certainly isn't. FSG is not good enough as owners. No, they're not ambitious enough. But yeah, like I always feel like I have two sides to FSG. I admire the philosophy in terms of acquiring players that are not the ready-made players because obviously they will cost a lot of money. And using your scouts and your data metrics to find the next big thing is excitement. I think as fans as well, where you see a player grow and turn into that superstar like we have over the years, like the Manes and even Salah. Salah was a very good player when he came from Roma, but he's elevated himself to being an icon since he's been at the club. So that's always a nice, thing to see as a fan that, you've seen someone grow at the club and become the best that they can. And you do take some joy out of those sort of plays and those sort of moments at the club. And so I do admire that aspect, but at the same time, when we've been on top, we've not capitalized, we've not taken advantage of that situation, we've not even reinvested with real quality rather than just getting free signing like an Adrian or getting a player like was 16, 17 years old in Harvey Elliott. Like that for me wasn't ambition. So yeah. There's some parts of FSG that I like in terms of how they operate, but there's a lot that I don't like as well. So fortunately, you don't get the perfect owner. Name me one perfect owner. Because if you say Man City, then look, they might be done very, very soon. So there isn't the perfect owner, but yeah, we don't have an ambitious owner. That's a fact as well. Steve says Hughes could have deals in place for Lukeba to join us next to FSG was not signing them off. How is this Hughes' fault? There's nothing to suggest that he's got any deals done. So for me, he would have been allocated a budget or finances to suggest that look, this is what's available. Liaise with the coach, liaise with the transfer committee, and see what is required in the squad. And then he would, gather the metrics in terms of which player tops the bill, and then he will pursue those players. Richie he's not doing this all on his own. He's got a lot of people working for him to make those final decisions. His job is just to be the face, the front man, to do those negotiations. So he hasn't negotiated a single thing. The only thing he's probably negotiated is booking his annual leave to go on holiday right now. That's the only thing he's done because it's out of it's it's away from Christmas time. So he ain't done nothing. So for me, there's nothing to suggest that Hughes has done anything, and there's probably nothing to suggest that FSG are at fault. They don't want to release the funds. I don't know. It's one of those ones where it's a great area because you're backing Hughes, but I have seen nothing from Hughes, in my opinion, to suggest that he's done anything whatsoever. Because if he had, we would be linked with players right now. We'd be close or on the verge of signing players, and that's not been the case. So for me, I see him as a fraud. That may sound harsh, but he's just not for me just doing anything at the club. Steve said, what signings did FSC do last summer for their new manager? And you think they will make signings this summer? You are dreaming, lad. Well, let's see. if I'm dreaming, because I'm hoping that we win a league title. I'm hoping we win the Champions League and maybe one or two other cups. And look, that success should show the owners that, look, you appointed the right coach, so let's back him now. Maybe when Arsenal came, there wasn't a strong emphasis of adding more quality to the squad because he probably thought they were good enough anyway. So we can always look at different sides of the story, but the fact is that we signed a sporting director, and his sole job is to recruit new players. Arne Slott's job is to coach the team. Right now, he's doing an amazing job. Richard Hughes was supposed to sign players for us. He signed Chiesa, but that wasn't a hard deal to do, was it? So if he's the only player that's he signed, for me, he's not done a good job. January, are you expecting any signs? Because I'm not. So if no signs are coming through, what is he doing? We've got three players on the verge of, in the last stage of their contract in Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Have those extensions been done? No. It hasn't been announced. I don't think we're getting any closer to it. So until I don't see things concluded in terms of contract extensions or new deals for new players, I can't give any positive tone towards Richard Hughes. For me, he's just got this job because his best mate has been employed by FSG. That's why he's here. It's the only reason he's here. But that's just my opinion on him. Um, FSG says FSG. So Steve said FSG are about to drop their nuclear bomb this month. Why they can't sign Trent, Salah, make new sign. FSG to announce 9 million loss, but our rivals have made bigger losses. Yeah, I don't see that being a nuclear bomb, to be honest with you. That's quite part and parcel of how FSG communicate their business. But yeah, it is what it is. So Ozzie, who signs off on the player contract? It ain't Hughes. Then who does? Because it comes he does the negotiations, right? So yes, in terms of the finances, but the thing is, you have to remember they're not doing anything. As when I say they, I'm talking about John W. Henry. He's not doing anything. He owns the club. He has hired people to do his work for him, i.e., he's hired Michael Edwards to be the CEO of football, to run all the football operations, i.e., get another club under the FSG umbrella. Make sure that you've appointed the right sporting director to take Liverpool forward. He appointed Richard Hughes. So for me, it's Richard Hughes' department to get the player contracts done. The finances are available for these extensions to happen. But right now, there hasn't been, according to the players, there hasn't been much talks. So where do the discussions come from? They don't come from John Henry directly. They come from the sporting director. So there's only one person to blame, and I'm looking at Richard Hughes right now. So if you disagree, that's your opinion, because I feel like with this sort of discussions, we don't have the actual facts. We can only go based on what we hear and what we know their job titles are. That's all we can go based by. All I know is John Henry is not an active owner. He's not going to physically, you know, go roaming around the world and sign players or get deals done. That's not him. That is not what he does. We are one of many assets that he owns. So he's not going to do that. He doesn't have a personal attachment to Liverpool like that. So if you see it the other way, that's fair. But I'm sure the next 6 months will allow us to see what the vision was. If we're signing the players that me and you have been talking about, like Hato and Zubimendi and all these guys, then look, I've said it on the show previous times as well. I will put my hands up and give Richard Hughes the praise he deserves. If he's signing these caliber of players, I'm all for it. Right now, I haven't seen a single thing. Literally haven't seen a single. Chiesa, yes. And I was happy with that Chiesa deal. But a lot of fans weren't. So make it what you will. But at this stage, I'm not impressed with what he's done. And that's just my opinion. Steve says, Hughes convinced the remainers to join LFC. Deal collapsed. Why? FSG refused to pay the buyout clause. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe. There's different perceptions of that deal not being done. There's perceptions that they were holding the initial talks. but Zubimendi didn't completely agree to the move. He said that the project is interesting. Let me get back to you, and it never happened. So we jumped the gun by telling our, you know, I say our because people say he's on the payroll, like journalists like David Ornstein, that we're about to get Zubimendi, and he was the first one to break the news. So if that's the case, then why did we not get him? Why are we hearing that his missus was like, let's not move to Liverpool, or he had second thoughts that he didn't want to actually leave. He wanted to stay at his home club. So where's this all noise coming from? So I don't think it's black and white as it appears. I don't think Zubimendi was as close as people assume it was. I think he was interested, but I don't think he was on the verge of accepting anything. That's just my opinion, but it's just an opinion. Hughes is doing what his bosses tell him to do. Well, he's not even doing that. His bosses are telling him to deal with player signings, deal with player contracts. That hasn't been done. So he's not doing what he's been asked to do. What has he done? I'd like you to enlighten me. What has he done? He's done nothing. He's got nothing to show for it. Other than the Chiesa deal, he's got nothing to show for it. So that's how I feel. Ozan Kabak says, I feel that Brentford won't be as compact or hard to break down as well. I agree. That's what I felt like with the whole Chiesa thing that we were speaking about earlier on. I feel like that game suits him more, where it's not going to be as intense, and it can be a game that he can, get involved in and have an impact in the team. So I do feel that will be a different game altogether. It's not going to be high intense. It's not going to be that pressured game that we've got to demolish them or anything to that nature. Or we just see how we play and try and get all 3 points, and that's the key for me. So yeah, I have a lot more confidence in this Brentford game. This one felt like a very difficult game. So a draw for me doesn't seem all bad now. Um, I just feel like maybe we should have just got the win in the end, but that's just me, being a bit hopeful there. And he says we get 3 points next game. Yeah, I hope we do as well. Sees that Ozzie, who signs the checks at LFC for new signings. You tell me. I feel like you've got all the knowledge there. You tell me because the money comes from FSG, yes. But in terms of like deals getting signed and stuff, it would be the sporting director. It wouldn't say John Henry's signature on it. It would be the sporting director because he's the guy that negotiates the deal. John Henry just brings the money there, if that makes sense. So, paint it however you want. Richard Hughes is not doing his job. That's all I can say. And quite frankly, Michael Evans is not doing his job either. He was appointed to get a new club for FSG. Where is that club? Bordeaux went to admin. He couldn't get that. Rumors of possibly Leon. He's not even getting that. So what's he done? What have both of them done since they've come back? Not much. That's how I see it, to be fair. Caesar Edwards, Hughes, Ward recommend the deals for LFC. FSG sign them off if they want to. So you're telling me they recommended it and then they sign it off? If that's your perception, that is entirely up to you. I don't agree with that. I think they've been hired to do the job. It's as simple as that. If FSG sign off Hato, I fully support FSG Edwards, Hughes. No, FSU won't sign off. They've hired these guys to get these deals done. That is their job. Otherwise, why are they here? There's no reason for them to be here. If FSG are signing the contracts or signing the checks and all that stuff, then John Henry's going to take the credit. It's going to be, I did all of this. He's not going to hire Michael Edwards or Richard Hughes or these guys. What's their involvement then? It's not as simple as that. He hires a team to do the job on a larger scale. There's a lot more people involved. These guys are just the face of a certain department in the business. They've got a lot of people working underneath them in terms of like the transfer committee and people that do negotiations, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of people involved. Richard Hughes is the face. You've got Michael Evans that is another face for another section of the business. It's just how it works. So for me, FSG are just the owners. They own the club. They hire these people to do a specific type of job. And quite frankly, that job for me has not been visible for me to say they've done a great job. They haven't. So I think we'll agree to disagree on that one. Steve Zimmerman said yes to Hughes. FSG refused to pay the buyout clause. He changed his mind 4 hours later. He knew FSG ain't serious about signing him. Possibly. That is a rumor as well. But I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if that is true, if I'm being brutally honest. But hey, we'll see. We'll never know. I think we'll never know in terms of what actually happened with that deal. So then we start winning games. Edwards runs the club for FSG. Edwards and FSG signed the checks. But then you said FSG signed the checks. So who are they, Edwards or FSG? That's what I'm trying to say to you. These guys are hired to do a job. So Edwards will be signing checks as well. But at the same time, it depends on what context you're talking about. If it's to negotiate a contract, a player contract, that is Richard Hughes. It's not Michael Edwards. It used to be Michael Edwards. Now it's not. It's Richard Hughes now. Why do you think Michael Edwards used to get all these plaudits about signing all of these players? Klopp didn't get that credit. It used to be Michael Edwards, the guy, the Mr. Data man, the guy on the computer, finding all of these full players and all these players, that have been unearthed by Michael Edwards. He used to get all the plaudits, right? So why didn't Klopp get that credit as well at the same time? So you got to weigh up in terms of how it is. But look, for me, the guys will get the credit when it's deserved. At the minute, I can't give them any credit. That's just how I see it. So, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping we get some new signings in this month and in the coming months. I'm just being honest. I don't see it, but it is what it is. Ozan Kabak says, but doesn't Hughes need the green light from Michael Edwards before making moves? Well, they would have worked collectively because with Richard Hughes, he would be responsible or working alongside a transfer committee in terms of analyzing the right players and going for those moves. But at the end of the day, Richard Hughes negotiates the deals. I'm not sure why people aren't understanding this. He negotiates the contracts. He's a contract negotiator. That is one of his key skill sets. Who's he negotiating with? The Zubimendi deal. He never got that done. I don't care what anyone says. That deal never got concluded. For me, that's a fail. That's how I'm looking at it in black and white. We didn't get the player that we were supposed to get. So who should I look at? Richard Hughes. Because he jumped the gun. He thought he got his man, but he didn't get his man. So for me, that's a huge concern. This job is too big for him. That's how I see it. I don't think he's the right sporting director for us. But apparently a lot of people, think Richard Hughes is the guy. I would love to be proven wrong. I really would. But at the minute, I just don't see it. I don't see it. The Chiesa deal was not a hard deal to conclude because he was pretty much frozen out. And a lot of clubs were offered. I think Barcelona were offered to him, and they were like, no, he's not for us. And they're already going through financial issues themselves. So they didn't want anything else because at that time, they signed Danny Olmo. And you're seeing what it is right now. They're not able to register him right now. So to have Chiesa as well would have just added more chaos as well. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I think we'll get the clearer picture after the summer window because then we know what really happened. Because to their defense, and look, I always look at all sides. So to their defense, they joined the club where a lot of changes were made. So, in i.e., Klopp has just left. So whatever the plans were, because with these clubs, they always have long-term plans with the current coach, and with Klopp being there for so many years, they probably had different vision or different targets in mind for the summer. Now that he left, you can't go for those same summer targets because a new coach might have completely different ideas. That's why Arne Slot came in. You know, Arne Slot, Richard Hughes, and Michael Edwards, they pretty much joined around the same time. So there's only so much they could have done. So that's why I'm not going overly harsh in terms of why they didn't recruit players. But for us to be like, oh no, it was FSG's fault, not for getting Zubimendi. I don't agree with it because it was Richard Hughes. He was the guy going over to Spain, getting the deal done. John Henry went in the boardroom with him. He'll probably ask for an update, but then John Henry will not ask for a direct update. The person that will ask for direct update about those deals is Michael Edwards, and Michael Edwards will sign up and tell John Henry. So there's a structure, there's levels. You don't just go to the boss straight away. I'm sure if you work in corporate level, whatnot, you don't speak directly to the director all the time. Some places very barely. If you work for an established business that's a big brand, you don't speak to the CEO all the time. That's not how it works. So you've been appointed to do a job, and you've got managers and senior managers, all that sort of stuff. There's levels. So you got to follow the levels. So for me, he's assigned to be the sporting director. When it's a sporting director, he's supposed to outlay the vision, the sporting vision of our club from the youth level to the first team. That means him recruiting young players like a Rio and Gamoha, those type of players, up to now, where you're signing your Chiesas and your Zubamendi, all those type players. He's solely responsible for that. So he's involved in negotiating, he's involved in acquiring these players, he's involved in acquiring certain scouts to be populated all over the world. He's not just doing one job, don't get me wrong, but he's the guy that's supposed to get the job done, and he hasn't got it done. So that's just my opinion. Ozan says, I see the logic. So Ozan. Um, Steve says, on Ward, Hughes, others agree on player X to be signed. LSG say yes or no. No, I don't think that's the case. That's just my, I don't think that's the case. These guys would have had discussions about a player under a sort of, not time frame, under certain conditions, i.e., FSG would have communicated to Edwards that, okay, this month or in this summer window, we have 100 million available, which never has never happened because our expenditure will show that that's never happened. But I'm just giving you as an example. You've got 100 million, liaise with the sporting director, liaise with the coach, and analyze what areas need to be strengthened, and you guys do your thing. That's literally how it is. They have to work under conditions. It's not just they do all the research and then they tell FSG, oh, please sign the deal. It doesn't work like that. Because if they've gone on to do deals for Bellingham and let's say, say all the top class players, and FSG is like, oh, we can't afford that. That's time wasted, isn't it? That's not how business would operate. You would get a budget and you work based on that. So that is my logic in terms of how it works. That's how it's been proved over the years. That's how it works as well. Because if that wasn't the case, we would be signing players on ridiculous fees. FSG work very strategically. They don't waste money like that. So they have to work under tight constraints because they don't want to break the fair play rules and all that sort of stuff. So that's how I see it. If you see it another way, you know, fair enough to you. But that's the vision that I see, and that's the logic that I see in terms of how the football business is operated at Liverpool Football Club. Steve says, I used to be a bank manager, and I and two other senior staff only had access to the bank vote collected only. Why, if one of us had to use access to the vote, that money disappears? But like I mentioned earlier on, in some works of, especially in the corporate world, there's levels. You're not gonna speak to a John Henry, if that makes sense. If you're the bank manager, you're responsible for the other staff members that you're mentioning. If you're speaking to John Henry, then fair play. But I don't see that working in the bit. If you work for a small business, then it works because obviously you're a bit more in arm's length to speak to a director, like a new startup company or whatever. But for like a big establishment, it's hundreds and thousands of employees. You're not gonna speak to a CEO. That's not how it works. So I don't know. We all have different ways of analyzing business. I'm not saying mine's greater than anyone else, but I'm just going based off what's happened over the years and what I know from a personal level as well. It just doesn't work like that. But you know, we'll agree to disagree in certain elements. But look, for me, all I care about is Liverpool Football Club winning games. Unfortunately, we didn't get it today. But for me, it's not a terrible result. At the time, I was definitely feeling mixed emotions. I felt really disappointed due to our performance. But looking back at it, you know, it's not a bad point. We could have got the goal towards the end, but you have to give credit to the goalkeeper. He was sensational. He was very good. And if you haven't seen on social media, I posted my team of the season so far. He was my first choice keeper. I think he's been by far the best keeper in the league. So we'll see how it goes. But that is the end of the show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for sticking over an hour and a half there. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let me just give a few thank yous to the people in the chat. So big up Solo, big up Double D, Big up Steve, big up Oz and Kabak, and big up Abdul, of course. Big up you guys for your comments. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your engagement. In terms of upcoming shows, tomorrow I'll be doing a transfer talk show potentially. It won't just be Liverpool. It'll be all Premier League rumors that are, you know, spreading the airwaves in terms of it being possibility of new signings coming through to the Premier League. There'll be a lot of Liverpool ones as well. So, there will be some Liverpool segments involved. And then on Thursday, I'll be doing a match preview of Brentford versus Liverpool. So I don't think it'll be as tough as today's game, but I do have confidence that we'll hopefully get the win. So yeah, I'll be doing a match preview for that one. So, and then on Saturday, no, Friday, I'll actually be doing a match week 21 review. All of the games have been played midweek. Um, Big game tomorrow, as Ozan mentioned earlier on, in terms of Arsenal playing Tottenham. That's a big game. So I would love for Tottenham to um get some revenge for themselves, but also get take points off Arsenal's board because they've already had a terrible week, and the more it continues, the better. Because their fan base do go in meltdown. So if you think Liverpool fans are bad, Arsenal are a lot worse. So I'll be doing a live watch along of the Brentford game on Saturday, and then we'll also do a match reaction show later in the evening. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.